the headlines. The Spanish Football Federation asks President Luis Rubiales to resign over that kiss at the end of the Women's World Cup final. Bank holiday chaos. Britain's National Air Traffic Service fixes a technical issue which caused the delay and cancellation of hundreds of flights. Donald Trump faces a manic Monday ahead of Super Tuesday as a U.S. federal judge sets a trial date of the 4th of March for the former president. Now, London's controversial ultra-low emission zone, or ULEZ, has just expanded from an area covering just the city centre to the whole of the capital. It'll become the world's biggest ultra-low zone, and it means owners of the most polluting vehicles will have to pay £12.50 a day while driving in the area. Around 90% of cars are compliant and won't be affected by the charge. Here's Helena Wilkinson.
Getting rid of air pollution is a priority for cities across the UK. In many, air pollution far exceeds limits recommended by the World Health Organization. It's schemes like the expansion of the ultra-low emission zone in London which aim to improve air quality. This green area shows the current zone in central London, and this is what it will look like from tomorrow.
Let's stay in the United States because thousands of people gathered earlier on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington to mark 60 years since Martin Luther King's iconic "I Have a Dream" speech. Later, Mr. King's descendants met President Biden in the White House, and Mr. Biden wrote an opinion piece ahead of the meeting saying that his administration is working to advance King's dream of a society in which a person's character outweighs their skin color. After that meeting, Martin Luther King's son spoke about the challenges the civil rights movement still face in 2023.
This is a very difficult day for us in one sense, because you would think that America would be much further than it is. What we know, though, is that Mom and Dad and others taught us that when people come together, change can occur. And we must change this trajectory.
And a magnitude 7 earthquake struck the Bali Sea region of Indonesia. The quake's epicenter was north of the island of Lombok and very deep at 516 kilometers below the Earth's surface. There were no threats of a tsunami and immediate reports of damage or casualties, but locals have been posting on social media videos of tremors being felt. Ukraine says it has captured a village in the southern region of Zaporizhia, where the country's forces are hoping for a breakthrough. Officials said troops are advancing southeast of the village Robotin. Kyiv launched its counteroffensive in June, but officials have acknowledged that progress has been rather slow. Tropical storm Idalia is barreling towards Florida, with landfall expected on Wednesday. And before it hits land, forecasters say that it's expected to intensify to a dangerous Category 3 hurricane. The U.S. National Hurricane Center warned that it could bring life-threatening conditions to parts of the state.
Officials in Florida released new footage of the moments before a gunman killed 3 people at a convenience store in a racially motivated attack. And COVID cases are on the rise across the US. We sit down with Dr. Anthony Fauci, who led the country through the worst of the pandemic. The Libyan Prime Minister is reported to have sacked his country's foreign minister following anger over a meeting with her Israeli counterpart. Protests erupted when word of the meeting got out. Libya, which claims the meeting was a chance encounter despite Israeli denials, has no formal relations with Israel. The Libyan Foreign Ministry has issued a statement saying it completely rejected establishing relations with Israel. There's been a dramatic rise in violence carried out by Israeli settlers against Palestinian civilians in the occupied West Bank this year. The UN says it's now seeing an average of 3 settler attacks a day. Recent months have seen some horrific scenes of violence.
So Elton John is recovering after a fall at his house in France. The 76-year-old was kept in hospital overnight and discharged yesterday. Reports say he had a brain scan which revealed he was only lightly injured. And to have a listen to this, a woman living in Australia has had an 8-centimetre-long parasitic roundworm removed from her brain. The 64-year-old Englishwoman was admitted to hospital in January 2021, complaining of abdominal pain, diarrhoea and a dry cough. By 2022, her symptoms included forgetfulness and depression. An MRI scan of her brain revealed the worm living in the front of her brain, which was surgically removed.